So I was there one day, and at that moment, there was one afternoon I was sitting and opening some boxes in his room, and he was sitting across. And then he looked at me, he said, "What is it that you really want?" I ran to him and knelt down. I said, "Swami Kavala, Swami Kavala." And then very beautifully, he said, "Niku Swami Kavala, Sai Kavala. Swami Kavala, Sai Kavala. Cheppu." And I knelt down and I said, "What does that mean, Swami? What do you mean by Swami Kavala or Sai Kavala? Do you want Swami or Sai?" I didn't understand. So, in all humility, I said, "I want both. Iddaru Kavala, Swami." And then Swami shook his head, not saying yes or no, but he just shook his head, almost meaning, "No, no, 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 I didn't mean that." He said, then he went on to explain. He said, "Swami uh, is talking to you today. Swami won't talk to you tomorrow. Swami will be in Puttaparthi today. Swami will be not in Puttaparthi tomorrow. He will be in Brindavan tomorrow. ఈ రోజు పుట్టపర్తిలో ఉంటాడు, రేపు బృందావనంలో ఉంటాడు. ఈ రోజు మాట్లాడతాడు, రేపు మాట్లాడరు. స్వామి అట్లా ఉంటాడు. స్వామి సాయి ఇంటనే జంటనే వెంటనే కంటనే ఉంటాడు. బట్ సాయి విల్ బి విత్ యూ, ఇన్ యూ, అరౌండ్ యూ. These are words coming out of his mouth. Not in a discourse, not in a book form, but directly. Sai will be with you, in you, around you, above you, below you. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పు, ఎవరు కావాలా నీకు? And I said, "I want Sai." మంచిది, he said. మంచిది, తీసుకో. తీసుకో means take. So that he would indicate take namaskar. So I took namaskar and Swami rubbed my back. That was such a divine moment, right? So I knew at that point, when I came out of that room and I went to bed that night, I sat up thinking, what did Swami mean by that? And there was something very big that happened that afternoon when he said, "Niku Swami Kavala, Sai Kavala," and I chose Sai. What does that mean? So the next day morning, when I did my meditation after Omkaram and boys are chanting 108 names, I would continue to sit there and practice my meditation. So when I meditate on his form, and so I started my usual meditation. I said, okay, so this is how it will be. So I continued my meditation, and at the end of the meditation, this thought came, but this is Swami. This form is Swami. But then Swami says, "Swami Kavala, Sai Kavala." This form can be here today, cannot be there tomorrow. So where is the Sai? What is the Sai he talked about then? And so now that momentary greatness, that wonderful feeling, that afternoon that Swami had done something or told me something important, something big, suddenly vanished, and all that stood was, so what did Swami mean by saying Swami Kavala, Sai Kavala? What does that even mean to me? And so the next few weeks again was spent in deep introspection. This time I knew it was not for me to write to Swami and ask him to explain what it is. I knew in my heart that he's given me homework to do. I knew now suddenly that he is waiting to open a door from within. And I had to do that homework. So I would I remember spending nights. I would escape from the hostel into the mountains in the night because I just wanted to be alone. And I wanted to look into the stars, and those days there wasn't Krishna statue and all of that then. So I went beyond into those hills, and I would spend the nights there. All we had was a sheet, a bed sheet, small bed to put and stretch out. So I would take that to the hills and spend the whole night up there, and come early in the morning, sneak back into the hostel. But all that night I would just sit and think, what is it? Show me this way, show me this way, open. What does a Sai mean? Open that door. And then it happened one morning when I was meditating on Swami's form. I ended up, as always, I would end up saying, but this is Swami, but this is the only thing I know. Unless I understand what Sai is, I cannot meditate on Sai or even understand or experience what Sai is. And as long as, like I said earlier, if I can't experience something, it doesn't make sense to me. I have to either go deep and find out what it means, or I will just say, you know what, at this time, I'll just shelve it. So while I was praying in the nights and praying in the sense going deep and trying to understand what it means, meditating on that meaning, going into pranayama practice and all of that, thinking, what does it mean? Is there as a Sai? Then show me that way. Let it open up, whatever that meant. So I would end my session of Swami's form thinking, okay, but this is Swami anyway. There's nothing more I can do, and I would end it. Rather, it was like an anticlimax in my everyday meditation. But that morning was beautiful when I was about to end the Swami's form. And suddenly, with my eyes closed, I was sitting in the lotus pose. My whole body got locked. I couldn't come out of that pose. I couldn't move my fingers. They were all locked in the mudra. And my chin was down, which it was anyway during meditation, but it became fixed. I couldn't move. My body was locked. Now I understand why in yoga they call it bandhas. Bandhas are locked. Now these things happen naturally. So when it got locked, I couldn't move. There was a moment of slight nervousness or fear, what is happening, but immediately it was replaced with a sense of a presence in front of me, with my eyes closed, a presence that was glowing, beautiful, beautiful, glowing. I could feel a presence in the form of light. It was formless. And then that presence just filled, it wasn't, I don't know if it's a pillar of light or how can I explain this, but for lack of any other term, it was like a pillar of light. And then suddenly the next moment it was filling the space below and it entered my whole body. This was not in my imagination, because that's the last thing I ever imagined. I wasn't doing any light meditation as such for all of this to happen. Because I could never relate to that light meditation, though I did that for a few times. And after this, of course, light became my favorite practice of meditation. But because it was Swami's form, I thought, what can be more beautiful than Swami's form? I just let it be there. But it was time for that form to manifest itself, right? This is what, the reason I'm sharing this with us is, even when we are devoted and attached to the form, there will come a time when He will guide each and every one of you. He will do that. That guidance will come. It's directly proportionate to our yearning. And so the light filled my whole body. I could feel the entire spine being completely warm, glowing, the whole thing. My first spiritual experience, if you will, in yoga, that was my first. And then it filled, and the whole light just shot through my head everywhere. Everything disappeared. And all there was only light. Only light. There was only so much of light that I couldn't even think. And at that moment, I realized, this is the Sai. This is Sai. I don't even know how long it lasted. Maybe 10, 15 minutes, I would think. I don't know. But that experience of that light, that formless aspect of Swami being so glorious, so beautiful, so divine, filling with light. And then when I opened my eyes later, I came back to normal and all of that. It came clear to me that Sai was this formless, infinite, pure consciousness filled with light, energy, divinity. And that was all around me, up, below, intane, gentane, ventane, kantane, behind me, within me. The bliss of experiencing divinity is extremely powerful. That's why emotions come naturally, because it's blissful.